My name's Bri. I'm an addict. It's not quite as bad up here. You're right. Yeah, when you first get up here. This is also my first time doing any type of speaker meeting. So, yeah, thanks for setting the tone, Brandon. So I'm going to start out. I've never really told my whole story either, so this is going to be interesting. I'm going to try to also stay in order, and we'll see how that goes. So I grew up in two separate families. Like I had a dad and a stepmom, and then I had a mom and a stepdad. So I grew up in a really two opposite families too. And I'm going to say this too. My story is completely different from Brandon's, which is cool that we get to share on the same night because we are so different. And it shows two aspects of the disease of addiction and how we get to the same place, which is cool. So grew up in a couple different families. One was extremely church going, God fearing. Like I went to church every Wednesday, every Sunday. We always had to have our hair in bows. The house was always perfect. And it was my biological dad and my stepmom. And then my other side of the family, they were, great people. Like I grew up with them more so than my dad and my stepmom. And my stepdad's a football coach. My mom's a counseling secretary. Like they're really, involved in the community. And so I had a lot of love on both sides too, which is something that I'm grateful for growing up. For a long time, I didn't understand how my addiction kind of started because I grew up with so much love and there was no abuse, no verbal abuse, no physical abuse. Like everything was kind of put into place for me. I did really well in school growing up. I did a lot of back and forth between the two houses, and I think that was hard on me, and that's also where my disease kind of started. I learned to manipulate really well. If I couldn't get one thing from one family, I got it from the other family, and I was able to go back and forth and kind of work with both sides. And in high school, it's kind of where it started, is high school for me. I was always told I was good enough. I was always told that I was appreciated and loved and made sure to know that. And I was an only child up until I was 11 years old. And then I all of a sudden had three siblings in a matter of like 3 years. So that was interesting for me to go from an only child to that. And that's when I kind of started acting out to get that attention back on me. 'Cause being an only child, you want that attention. So I think I was like a freshman. I'm going to backtrack. I was like an ugly duckling, right? I was really chubby as a kid, and then I hit 8th grade, and I kind of became more of a woman, right? Like I started to look more like a woman, and people started wanting to be friends with me and all that stuff. And so I went from that into high school, where there's parties in high school, the normal high school thing. I didn't think there was any issues. Hung out with a lot of the older crowd. Thought it was cool. And when I started to realize that I was a little bit different was when we would be at a party and I would be the one that would get so drunk that I'd go up in the bathroom and throw up, clean myself up, make sure nobody knew that I went to the bathroom to throw up, and then clean myself up, come back out to party again, right? That's not normal. Normal teenagers don't do that. Normally don't drink until they puke, and this was every weekend too. But I thought because it was only every weekend and I was going to school during the week that I was good. So my sophomore year in high school, and the funny part about this is too, is both sides of my family were so strict. I had one best friend that her family wasn't strict, so I spent every weekend over there. My church going side of the family had no idea that any of this was going on, right? I was like this perfect kid. I was really good at conforming to what everybody wanted me to be. Played a lot of sports for the other side. It was crazy. So my sophomore year, I got involved in high school in culinary arts, right? And I found out I was really good at cooking. There was a culinary arts class that went through my high school, and I still don't know how I graduated high school, honestly. I can't remember how I passed any of my classes. But I graduated. I got a scholarship through culinary arts to go to school in New York. And through my senior year, it was kind of like a blur. It was a lot of drinking, a lot of partying. And then I also had surgery for endometriosis. If anybody knows what that is, it's a condition that happens to women that you most likely won't be able to have kids when you have surgery for it and all this, and it causes really bad cramping and all this. And so at like 16 or 17, I was put on, pain medication and stuff. And I also had my appendix out, and so that was like my first taste of that part of it, like the opiate dependency. That's when it started. And I decided as soon as I graduated that I was going to take that scholarship. I was going to go to school in New York. So I went to school in New York for culinary arts. This is where like the depths of my addiction started, because I was away from home, 17 years old. Like I shouldn't have left that soon. I was able to kind of do whatever I wanted to. I was going to be able to get a full bachelor's degree in 3 years, right? And so the first year went really well. Like I studied really hard. I went to all my classes. Everything was great. And, I was only drinking on the weekends, and I was only using pills on the weekends until I found a doctor up there that was going to give me whatever I wanted. So as soon as I started doing that, I also didn't know that with pills, when you stop taking them, you're going to get sick if you're taking them continuously. So I would take too many, and then I'd get sick. I wouldn't go to class. Started doing all that, and it came time where at the school that I was at, the Culinary Institute of America, you go on an externship. And so I picked to go on an externship down in Georgia. I was down in Georgia for about a month doing the externship. I couldn't show up for work. It was a job. Couldn't show up for work. I exhausted every single emergency room and doctor's office in the area, right? Lying to everybody, lying to all the people I knew. When I had exhausted all those options out for me, because that was the only thing that I cared about. I didn't care about where I was going with my career, with my school, anything. I decided, okay, I'm going to go do another externship because this one's not working for me. It was the externship, it wasn't me. It was where I was living, so I wasn't the problem. So then I moved to DC, and when I moved to DC to do the externship there, I got an apartment. I stayed there for about 6 months, and kind of built a little bit of a life there. Like I got an apartment, not in my name, it was in my parents' name because I'd ruined my credit already by the time I was 18. So got the apartment there. Figured that if I did the full externship there, I could go back to New York, and that the hospitals and stuff would accept me again back up there. That was what my life revolved around, was finding using, what is it, finding... There you go, that's the one. So that was what it revolved around. And so I did the externship there. If anybody's ever been involved in the culinary world, it's a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking. You're going out every night after you get off. You work so much. There's a lot of cocaine everywhere. And so that I got deeper down that rabbit hole. And of course, none of my family knew about this. They were across the United States. So I was getting money from my family, every couple weeks, and that was gone in a matter of minutes. And I ended up overstaying my welcome in DC as well. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but what I did is I just picked up and left. Left all my stuff in my apartment. Didn't say bye to anybody that I was there with. Ended up going to live in West Virginia with a guy that I was dating at the time, that I'd been dating when I was living in New York. And when we got there, we were living in a house with like 8 people up top and 6 people on the bottom, right? It was like this weird, like real world type house. It was like everybody was crazy. And I wasn't working, so I was just in the middle of West Virginia by myself while everybody else was going to work. And so what else was there to do is go to doctors and bars and all that. And decided after that, when he was done with his externship, went back to New York thinking that I was going to be able to get back into classes, but I didn't finish my externship, right? So I couldn't really do that. So I wasted about a year and a half doing that, then decided that when we moved back up there, we got another apartment, right? All my stuff was still in DC. I'm sure it was thrown out within a matter of days. And got to New York, and I told him, the person I was dating, that I was going to go home and visit in Portland. So I went home to visit. I took 2 suitcases and left everything in New York and never went back. So that seemed to be like a normal thing for me, is jumping around from state to state and apartment to apartment, person to person. Like, I was always the issue. I wanted to blame it on everybody else. It was everybody else's thing. Nothing had to do with me. When I went home, my family welcomed me with open arms. They had no idea about anything I had done. They just knew that it wasn't working out in those other places. So at that point, for me, it was just the alcohol and the pills, right? That was where I was at when I came home. And within about 3 months of doing that, after all the lies and manipulation, and I was red flagged in every hospital. God forbid something would have actually happened. Like, I probably wouldn't have been allowed in any of the hospitals. I started getting like papers when I'd walk in there that were like, you're X'd out from this hospital. Like, we can't even help you. It's like, okay, cool. So something was really going on. It wouldn't have worked out. So about 3 months later, I found out about heroin the same way. It's opium. Just try it. It's a lot cheaper than pills, and you can get it a lot more regularly, and you don't have to spend all day at a doctor's office. Okay, cool. I'll try it. So I tried it, and again, way sicker than with the pills, when I stopped using it. And that took me down a really dark hole also. It caused me to lie way more than any of the other stuff did to my family. Like, I was making sure that they wouldn't find out, obviously. And the crazy thing is about this is, since my dad, my stepdad, I call him my dad because my dad actually left when I was 16. This is another big part of my story I didn't even tell. My dad and my stepmom ended up getting divorced because my dad was forging her signature on her 401k. Ended up like taking all this money out that she didn't know about. He had this huge gambling problem. So I thought it was just gambling. And then when I was 16, I was really close with him, and he took off to Alaska and never came back. I talked to him maybe 3 times in the last 8 years. Once when I first got clean, he sent me some weird poems, and that was about it. Come to find out recently, and looking back, it makes sense that he was a practicing meth addict, and I had no idea. My stepmom finally told me that just about 6 months ago or so, 7 months ago, and I had no idea, and it makes so much sense now, and I have a lot more compassion towards him as another addict than just thinking my dad left me, So a lot of my abandonment issues stem from that, because everybody was so close to me, and he just took off. So there was that void there that I was filling with everything. Also, another thing, when I was in college and I was using really heavy, I got pregnant and I had an abortion. That also took me way down a rabbit hole that I would have never expected, and I didn't realize it was. I was numbing that pain with drugs and alcohol and all of that. None of my family knew about it until about 2 months ago. I finally had told them because I forgot about it. I numbed it so far back, and I put it back in this crazy compartment that I didn't ever want to think about again. I was told that I was never going to be able to have kids either because of that. Now I have a beautiful baby, so that's another thing. But so when my dad left, that was hard. I think that's why I left so soon for school. I just took off. I didn't want to think about it. And with my stepdad and mom, they kind of took more of the role of my parents, and so my stepdad's always been in my life. My grandparents, too, were also like a second set of parents for me, but they were also involved in the community, so I couldn't let them know anything was going on. Like, I had to be really good at hiding it, until I wasn't good at hiding it. I started, I would be too tired when I used opiates, right? So, and it's funny how they tell you that, oh yeah, it's going to be a good mix, you're good. I ended up losing about 50 pounds. I was like 105 pounds soaking wet. That's not the type of body I should have. Everybody thought something was weird, They had no idea what was going on, but there was something up. And then I started picking really bad. My face was just tore up. Like, it was bad. And so that was only about a 4-month span of when all that happened. That took me down real fast. And it was funny because I was on pain medication for my cysts and stuff, and my grandma decided they were going to put me into outpatient. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do outpatient, that's fine. And I found out, and being the good addict that I am, I learned that if it's a 5-panel test, I could have, used whatever I was using, and it showed up as my pain medication, right? So I started doing that, and I was loaded in all the groups and everything, and I didn't know about NA at all. And finally, they ended up running a test on me that was more than that, didn't let me know about it. And of course I was pissed. I was like, no, this isn't right. They can't do that to me. Like, they had to tell me about it. And so, it's their fault. And so my mom decided I was going to go to a detox center. I agreed to go to the detox center. I went to Cedar Hills, and I was there for 12 days, the first time, 12 days. I didn't go to any meetings. They had one AA meeting that was in there, but nobody went to it. It wasn't it wasn't important, apparently. I just went to my classes and did the yoga, just did the normal stuff. And after 12 days, I thought I had it, right? And since I didn't go to any meetings, I didn't learn that I couldn't drink because alcohol wasn't my problem. So when I got out of detox, the 12 days, we went out and celebrated with a drink and dinner, right? That sounds right. That sounds good. Let's go out for a drink. And everything was okay for like a week, and then I started drinking wine every night to go to sleep. And then I started hanging out with the same people that I was hanging out with before, priding myself on the fact that I wasn't using. I could sit and hang out with them, and like I was just, they were so proud of me, right? They were so proud of me that I wasn't using, and I could just sit in the room and I could drive because I wasn't loaded, and I could, move stuff because I wasn't loaded, and I had nothing else in my car. It was just, it was sick, and that took about 30 days before my family noticed again. And my mom found some paraphernalia in my wallet and sent me back to detox. I was just going to go to detox for 12 days again, and then was told that I was going to go to a 30-day treatment center. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I had like this weird rehab romance, right, where you have a crush. There was this one person I had known before, and they were in there, and they're like, oh, well, they're going to that treatment center too. I was like, okay, I'm going. So I went, and it was the best thing I've ever done. That person definitely did not stay clean, didn't even make it through the treatment, but that's the reason I ended up. It was in Washington. It was called Olala. It was like a native-based treatment center. It was amazing. Got to smudge every morning, got to go outside and do the circle, and had like a native guide come in and like do all this cool stuff. It was really, really awesome, and it like opened up spirituality for me. And I have a couple people that were there that were like huge mentors to me, and like the reason that I got clean. And I remember my family would come up for the visits. They drove all the way up there. It was like 3.5 hours, and they were like, so when are you going to be able to drink again? I was like, 30 days after, I'm out of here, I'll be able to drink. And then I changed it towards the end of it, like, okay, when I get 90 days, I'll drink. I'm sure it'll be okay then. And then as I started going to the meetings there, they brought in like 5 meetings a week, AA and NA, and brought in lots of meetings, and it was actually the first one I'd ever spoken at a podium. I was scared about the podium tonight because that was the last time I'd spoken at a podium, and I blacked out. I couldn't remember anything I said when I sat down before, so I was like, oh gosh, this is going to be terrible. But it was really cool because I got like the first taste of NA, and I liked NA a lot better than I liked AA because I felt more at home, I felt more comfortable, and it was like more all-inclusive, we include everything. There's not just, alcohol wasn't just my problem, and that's what I felt when I was in AAs. That was what was talked about. So I was there for 30 days. So when I got out of there, I had around 45 days clean. My clean date is January 2nd of 2013. So I have a little over 2 years, and so I had a really bad New Year's, if that makes sense to anybody, really bad New Year's. And so got out of there, and immediately went to meetings, right? I went to the late night meeting at the URS Club, over in Gresham, if anybody knows where that is, and it's crazy, and it's off the hook, but, I was able to get clean there, and it was funny because the person that I was when I started going there is so different than the person I am today. Like, I had my hair done, I had my makeup done, I had heels on. It's funny because I was talking to somebody the other day, I was like, I didn't really ever feel like a newcomer. And they're like, it's because you didn't look like a newcomer, and you didn't present yourself as a newcomer, and you didn't talk to anybody about anything, and you just, like, I was so closed off, and I was so cold. I didn't care about anybody, and I was also talking about this earlier, is that, like, I didn't know that I didn't care about anybody, right? Like, I thought I was so caring, and I had the biggest heart, and all this stuff, but I was so cold. Like, I wouldn't let anybody in. I didn't cry for the first 6 months. I remember the first time I cried in a meeting was when I was reading a part in Living Clean about how our defects are frozen, and like we chip away at that ice, and like our defects start to come out, and like those feelings start to come out. I started bawling, and I was like, what is this? I haven't cried in years. Like, I was so scared. But it was cool because I got to start working steps after that. I mean, I started working some steps, but I got to really dive into the steps when that happened. Like, the feelings started coming, and I realized the change in myself. And I found an amazing sponsor. My sponsor just celebrated 30 years, Linda, up here. It's awesome. It was pretty amazing. Yeah. And say that if you don't think you have the best sponsor ever, you need to find a new sponsor. And I firmly believe I have the best sponsor ever. And I get to work the steps with her, and I get to learn more about myself. And it's funny because, I mean, for the first year, I couldn't be on time to anything. I was manipulative, not even knowing it. I lied a lot about little things, stupid things that I just thought, made sense to lie about. And like through the steps, and especially the sixth step, and like learning my defects and like what I needed to work on, I became a person that like I love today, and that like people actually want to be around. And that was something that I didn't get to do before. I also get to choose my support group, which wasn't something before that I ever got to do. I was like forced into whoever would be around me. So that's really, it's a beautiful process. And if you're new, and people that took time, congratulations, that's awesome. It's a beautiful program. The people in it are amazing. I didn't like women when I first came in, like I think most addicts do when they first come into the program, because women were able to see right through me, right? Women could see what I was, hiding, and it was scary for me, and I didn't want to open up to people, but I have some beautiful women in my life today that pull me up on stuff when I can't pull myself up, and keep coming back. Like Brandon said, if it doesn't make sense, like keep coming back, it will. This program's amazing. Go to a lot of meetings. I went to 3 to 4 meetings a day for my first 6 months. It's not possible for everybody, but like that's how I built my foundation, and I got to know people. I got really in the middle, so if I didn't show up somewhere, I got like 10 phone calls, and that was odd for me. People didn't call me because I didn't show up to something. They were like, oh, she didn't show up to something, yay, so what was going to happen. So I'm done, huh?
You're good.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Yep. Like 5.
5? Oh, great. I thought I only had 5 a while ago. Just kidding. Okay. Let's see. I tried to go real quick. I'm trying to think. I learned how to be a friend in this program too, and I'm still learning how to be a friend. I don't do anything perfectly. I'm still learning how to answer my phone. I'm really bad at that. That doesn't always come right away. It's still hard for me to pick up my phone and to like all think that I text people back, and then I really didn't, and I'm like, God, I'm a terrible person. Like I feel really bad. I I highly suggest working steps. Like I said before, if you don't have a sponsor and you haven't started working steps and you want to like crack away at what's really going on, drugs and alcohol were a symptom of my disease, right? Like I'm the problem. If I just stop using, I'm still a shitty person. So I had to stop using and do some work on myself. Because not doing the work, there's the one saying that's like an addict who's clean but not working a program is more dangerous than an addict who's out there using. Like that's real. Like we're smart, we're cunning, we're deceiving, we're manipulative. Like it's just in our DNA, like as addicts. And so working on being a better person has been a huge feat. And the whole selfishness of the disease like overtook me in every way possible, and having a baby changed that for me drastically. Like I didn't realize how selfless I could be, because I've never had to be selfless. I was always like, it was all about me, and it was all about what I wanted and what I was going to do. And so that's been a very beautiful journey too, and especially thinking that I couldn't have kids. Like recovery does some beautiful things to your body. Like you get healthy, you're able to do some stuff. And the other cool thing that I didn't even mention is that I came here willingly, right? Like I didn't have to be arrested. I didn't have to go to jail. I mean, I didn't have to do some of the things that some people do. I didn't use intravenously, and like for a lot of people, I know that is that's a thought. It was a thought when I came in, like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here because I didn't go far enough down, right? And that wasn't the case. My bottom was just as bad as anybody else's. I was spiritually drained. I was emotionally drained. Like, everything was the very bottom. I was a shell of a person, and it doesn't have to take you all that stuff to get to that point. So if you haven't done that and you're wondering if you are at your bottom, like, it's okay to be in here and have not gone through all the stuff that somebody else has. They've gone through it so you don't have to. And that's cool. That's why my support group is so diverse. You know, I have people that have been through all walks of life and have gone through everything, because I get to talk to them about it and decide that I don't want to go down that way. Also, relapse isn't part of my story, and it doesn't have to be a part of yours. My sponsor has not relapsed in 30 years, and that's part of the reason I picked her, is because I don't want to have to feel like I have to relapse. If you have, it's okay. I'm glad you're back and you made it alive. But you don't have to relapse if you haven't gone out again. Like once you know the program and once you've been in here, like it's a choice to go back out, and it's a choice to stay in here, and it's a choice to work on yourself daily. And so I'm really grateful to be in here, and I'm grateful to be of service. Thank you for listening, and thanks.